What's up, college football fans? Sonoy Valenta here once again with the Mean Green Show. Today, joined by the one and only Eric C. Henry, and he's not in his normal studio apparel, so he's on the road in Atlanta. So we really appreciate him jumping on and giving his take on head coach of the UAB Blazers, Bill Clark, retiring, and just kind of jumping into how really unfortunate that is for UAB, as well as a lot of teams going into the American. But anyway, just news broke today. Coach Bill Clark is stepping down for medical reasons, and it's really unfortunate because, no pun intended, they were really right in the middle of their underdog dynasty being built, being that they won the conference back in 2018, played for it in 2019, falling short to the FAU Owls, winning it again in 2020, and then narrowly missing it again in 2021 when they lost to UTSA by, I think, 3 points. So, Coach Clark, I mean, in the new world of NIL and transfer portal, and a lot of G5 schools aren't as caught up in the likes of NIL and all that stuff yet. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if you're a G5 program, you want to hold on to all the things that you have, that's helping, kind of pull the rope of the program in that right direction, I feel. And not to say UAB is going to fall off a cliff, and they have their offensive coordinator, Brian Benson, stepping in as interim head coach. So, we've seen that work in past scenarios with Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, just for one example. But in a lot of times, it doesn't work nearly that clean. But anyway, that's a tough loss, and I mean, it's just so unfortunate to lose it at this time. As again, all UAB being one of those teams going from Conference USA to the American. And you really don't want to lose the head guy who's really brought the UAB program to really a dominating factor and debatably the face of Conference USA as of now. I mean, I know UTSA might be building up for a run, but UAB's got the most as of recent, collectively. But anyway, Eric, what are your thoughts on the matter? And I mean, do you think this is just can UAB weather this storm? And what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, first off, I appreciate you having me on as always. I think it's a unique situation, and in my opinion, you really have to start with Bill Clark first, right? Before assessing the situation with the UAB program, start with Bill Clark's journey here, right? An Alabama native from Anniston, Alabama. He gets his first head coaching job at Jacksonville State. Takes him to an 11-win year. And for the audience who may not know, he takes the UAB job in 2014. And the program is shut down, so you can't tell the story, as you mentioned, this being a significant loss. You can't tell that story without telling the fact that this man stood with the program for 2 years when there was no program. And it was not instantaneous that it was going to get brought back. And, there were other programs where he could have left and said, hey, I'm going to go take an assistant job elsewhere. And he was a highly coveted assistant, and had opportunities elsewhere. But he said no. Once it was announced that UAB would return to football, he stood through with it and decided to stay with the program and stay loyal to his home state. So I think that's a key part of the story to tell. But as you mentioned, since that program's rebirth in the past 5 years, 4 straight bowl games, 6-6 years to begin, when they restarted back up in 2016, if numbers are correct. And if it's 16 or 17, it was 16. Was that 6-6 year? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So no, it's the 2017. But nevertheless, they haven't had a losing season. 4 straight bowl games, 3 Conference USA West Division titles, and 2 Conference USA titles. That's just a phenomenal track record of success, especially at a place like UAB, which in the program history prior, they were abysmal. There's no two ways about it. Now, when you talk about can they weather the storm, my answer is yes, and here's why. This is not the situation with you have a group of 5 team where they get this hot shot coach and he comes in and he brings this group of ragtag guys to success and then leaves. You look at the foundation of UAB football, they have some of the best practice facilities and not just Conference USA, but all of Super 5 football. They just moved into protected stadium. That's done. In my mind, and I wrote this in just a quick breaking news recap earlier today for Underdog Dynasty, we'll see what happens. Brian Vincent, as you mentioned, is the interim head coach, and David Reeves will stay on as the assistant head coach. But this, in my mind, is going to be one of the most attractive jobs, if not the most attractive job in group of five football. It's going to remind me, as you've been on talk about, me being a UCF alum. When Scott Frost left, and that job was highly coveted, and ended up being Josh Heupel, and then when Josh Heupel left, and you see they get a head coach like Gus Malzahn. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be, a former SEC head coach, but in my mind, I don't think if they choose not to go with Brian Vincent and or David Reed in the future, that this is a job they will have no issue selling to, and whether if you want to have a successful coach who maybe is on the rebound or an up-and-coming assistant from the Power Five. So in my mind, there's no reason to think that UAB can't keep this going, and they've just reached, scratched the surface of the potential. Entering the American Athletic Conference next year, that's going to be a step up, and what comes with the step up in conference. So in my mind, I don't think, again, you wish it didn't happen. We want to wish Bill Clark, most success with his physical ailments that he's gone through. He said in a Twitter statement that he's been fighting a myriad of physical ailments that right now the stress of being a collegiate head coach is too much for him. But I don't think there's any reason to think that this program is going to fall off in the near future.
Yeah, and hopefully Coach Clark can return to coaching if he so desires to in the future. And but yeah, Eric, once again, thank you so much for hopping on and jolting news. Nevertheless, it really kind of came out of left field for I think a lot of us. So crazy.
Absolutely, appreciate you having me on, my man.